Hello everyone, I'm DonTheCrown, and today we're going to bring to you probably what is going to be the second to last update for the build here for the Thea 3 split shot. As you can see, the damage has gotten really ridiculous. We've made a few changes to the build, however, we're just going to be kind of focusing on getting our defensive layers up from this point. And hopefully the final update for this of beating SS20 will be coming very, very soon. But let's talk about the build real quick. And we have made at least one item change and a few other little tiny changes so far. There's still a lot of room to go for damage, like a lot of room to go for damage. And so, yeah, it's a little bit scary at times. However, just going from the top here, blind vision. I picked up one here that gives me chance to blinding. You can get one that has level 30 wind projectiles. That's like 10% more damage as well. I just really like having the chance to apply blinding here from the hat, because this is basically a 20% like no to any time an enemy would try to do damage to you. 20% of the time you're just going to completely ignore it, which is pretty nice. It's a nice survivability factor for sure. Amulet's still pretty much the same, belt's pretty much the same, rings. Our bow has gotten all tier 0 now. Got very, very lucky on the rolls here. The only roll I think that's kind of bad on this would be our critical strike damage, which is really not the end of the world. Still the same chest, still the same gloves. Our boots are a little bit different now. So we dropped the Valerie's boots. I really like Valerie's boots. Kind of like moving into the end game. I think these are going to give us a little bit more survivability and a little bit more damage. The elemental and erosion penetration and fire res with base was just basically free. So just picked it up. This gives us a lot of energy shield. Takes us very high up there. We're at like 6960 right now. I think I have a defensive aura on as well. Whereas if I take the boots off, we're down to 3256. So that is a pretty big difference there. Getting things like the physical skill level here, that's just more damage for us, which is very nice. Just fixing out our reses, getting more crit, and then getting deflection. Now, deflection is kind of neat because what this does, it reduces additional damage taken by 10% for every stack of deflection, up to 3 stacks. However, this is kind of bugged right now, which we'll talk about in a second. But when hit, you lose all your stacks of deflection, and this is the buff that you get up here. This looks like a little like dude shouting kind of thing. As you can notice, we have 5 stacks of this. And how is that the case? Well, we're using the dual Kismet pointer. These are about like 200 FE when I bought them. If they go up thanks to thanks to the video, that's not my fault. But this gives me +1 max deflection, and then you gain 1 additional stack of deflection. But this seems to be bugged so that it actually is +1 max deflection, +1 max deflection, because this doesn't make it so I gain more deflection at a time, which kind of does suck, but I just get another stack. So when you're full deflection, the next hit that's going to hit you is going to make you take 50% less damage. And it's pretty easy for us to move another 6 meters or so, like pretty quickly to fill this up, which is pretty nice to have. And so, yeah, able to kind of like get a pretty hefty defensive kind of barrier going on, which is pretty cool for sure. Next, let's talk a little bit about deep space stuff. So I've seen a lot of people talk about this particular belt, the immune to paralysis and blinding here. This is pretty important. Yes, if you're going to be doing deep space, we do get a blinding from the helmet normally. This can be a little bit expensive though. These keep going up and down, so you don't really need these belts. There's a lot of like other things you could potentially get on your belt, like energy shield, dexterity, res, a whole bunch of different stuff, aura effect, that like you can potentially mix and match. You don't have to get this one in particular. The things that I think you do need for deep space are immunity to wilt damage, ignite damage, and trauma damage. And right now we're kind of solving that in kind of a neat way. So I basically have my slate set up here where we have a spark set the prairie ablaze, and that is copying the bottom line of the slates that are touching it. So we have additional damage applied to life, which is nice. We have additional deterioration damage and duration, which is okay. Attack skill level is great here. We're actually copying that a second time here from Sparks of Mothfire. And then we have this slate here. The additional agility blessing and additional damage applied to life. Additional damage applied to life pretty much all goes into one bucket, so copying it too many times is not very good. But what I will do is I will remove this slate, and I will go and put in like a negative trauma slate, a negative wilt slate, or a negative ignite slate. And for the trauma and ignite slates, this will completely make you immune to scorch or whatever the I think it's maim in deep space. pretty much just be 100% immune, which is pretty nice because if I put this in here, this gets copied by the slate. So we have negative 90% times 2, so that's negative 180%. So you're just immune to damage overall. However, you don't need a fancy spark slate to do this. What you do need, though, is just go here and get yourself one of these microfates. And these microfates basically give you a negative additional damage taken. I believe this adds together. So if you have this and a slate, you're pretty much just going to be immune to ignite, which is pretty nice. Then the only one you really do need here is the negative wilt damage taken, because the wilt damage slate is not duplicatable. And so this is really the only one you need in order to become immune, which I think is pretty nice to have. I also recommend having 2 negative slow slates or fates here as well. So we see we have 47 and 54. There's some pretty gnarly slow effects in deep space, and it just kind of sucks to be like moving very slowly, attacking very slowly. I think you're even like taking more damage or something. And so having 2 of these fates, you pretty much just no sell the slow effect, which is really, really great. I'm also fixing some of my res right now through some fates. We're not really doing too much with them besides having the pointer ones that I talked about before. I'll probably be looking to add some more fates here in the future. Probably get rid of some of these ignite and the trauma ones that I don't need anymore, and just kind of finishing this out here. It's kind of the things that I want to do with the build. Also, things that we haven't really done yet is like level up our skills here. So we have like plus 4% additional damage on this particular support. However, this can go all the way up to plus 20. This is pretty freaking expensive though. So something I've been like really holding off on doing because it's just not super duper important. Also just going to go and, maybe get myself maybe some like aura support kind of stuff in here. Maybe like remove some of these like cooldown reduction or emergency avoidance and like put them in here and get like maybe like concentrated or something. And like try to like squeeze in kind of more auras basically for myself and just like get like a little bit more of the precise stuff going on is kind of the play here. But I don't really think that we need too much more defenses in order to hit SS20. I know that for sure, like I can just like run right through deep space right now. It's not really all that bad. Let me just go pop over here and kind of show you guys what's going on with that. So right now the role here is we have slowed. So we have slowed, which would be kind of annoying. This would make us take additional less movement speed, which we don't really care about. There's paralysis. We're also immune to that. Then we have maim, which we don't care about either. So I'm just going to go run this here with our Arcana setup. I'm going to go switch in our anti-maim slate after we pop in. So just going to pop this open. We're going to remove the ignite. And really there's only typically 1 debuff at a time. So we don't really care about it too much. You don't really have to switch around things all that much. I know I saw a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, I would rather never run deep space than change 1 slate in order to run deep space. And I kind of like was in kind of a similar boat myself. I thought it was a little bit annoying, but they did recently improve it so that, well, this is the one that has the death ground. They pretty much recently improved it so that you're going to get a lot more gold in deep space. You can see right now we're about like 4,000 gold, and you're a lot more likely to get level 8 workers. So I've already gotten a couple of level 8 workers today. They just made that update. And like, as you can see, stuff is just dying. For the most part, we're not having too much trouble with survivability, despite having all of this death ground everywhere. And yeah, the build I think is just really kind of coming together, feeling pretty darn nice. And just really looking forward to, I don't know, farming some endgame with this. Like, it's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of times once you get to SS20, the game kind of feels like, well, I did it. But I think that this build is still very fun to play, even kind of after like hitting all of the final, tipping points of the build. And like, still you can get stuff like Eternity and things like that as well. I think Eternity would be really stinking fun on this build. Although it probably would cause some, where is this guy going? Probably cause some resistance issues, but nothing that you couldn't solve with maybe like just adding some more fates or something, and just continuing to blast. But yeah, like I think that's still like the Arcana strategy that I shared is probably still good. It's definitely like one that is like very RNG heavy. So if you get lucky, you get lucky. We've also been like messing around with a little bit of doing compasses, and compass farming as well has been pretty fun. Even just going into doing deep space canvas has been pretty great. And yeah, just like I think there's a lot of different strategies right now. The deep space beacons are actually starting to climb finally. Right now they're about 6, maybe 7 FE. And so I could see potentially having a beacon strategy start to open up again. That's something that I really did enjoy doing last season. But since deep space beacons aren't like 30 FE, well, there's 8 sacred fossils right there. How much are sacred fossils right now? Fossils are looking like, well, 17 FE or so. So that was quite a nice drop. As you can see, deep space, I think, like has some okay drops now. I still think that they need to do some work on this. I did leave some feedback. They had a poll that's going on right now where I don't really think that deep space is in a great spot because it's 3 times as large of a map, but with only 2 times the monsters. And then on top of that, you have only the normal amount of league mechanic. And so if I got more league mechanic or something for having a bigger map, or if it was just more impactful, I think it would just be better. But yeah, we'll just see what they do. I really am like happy with that we have a little bit more gold generation here. Definitely like now that we can actually just blitz our way through deep space as opposed to kind of like slowly push, it does feel a little bit better. We gain like 2,000 gold there, which is not like super mind breaking. The start of the season, I was really hoping this could be close to like 10,000 gold a pop, so that like our gold would just kind of be insane, constantly able to send out gliders, the extra ones. But right now we're just saving up to do like a 8 million shipment, or is it 80 million shipment to the Oasis Island. This thing just requires a ton of materials. Utopia, that's what it's called. So we're sending out 739 of these bricks, and we can send out a grand total of 8 million shipment here. And so as soon as we're able to fill this up all of the way, we're getting pretty close. Next couple of day or so, I will send this out, and then we'll send it up with a whole bunch of extra materials as well. And we'll see how that goes. I saw a picture of this. I think it was Midmax ARPG has like a 2,000 or 3,000 FE return from this. So we'll have to see how it goes. Maybe we'll do a short video about that. Hopefully this video helped you out. We're definitely moving into the end game final stages of the build now. I want to get other things, by the way, like fixing out these chests and gloves and like getting the good corruption versions of this. But you know, like we just got to keep throwing FE at the problem and keep grinding. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll see you again soon. Check you later. Come by the stream.